Hey Dimitri. So I spent a little more time tonight with our fake 3D demo tests. So we took a look at those on Sunday a little bit, but I thought I would show you kind of what I've got going on here. So one, we took a look at this together, right? So this is kind of our sort of what could like a I don't know like a tram hallway look like or something like that. It looks like this, right? I think one of the biggest issues we currently have, and maybe we can lean into it for the style, but is because of the FOV of the camera and how close it is, we basically have kind of like this as the sprite is rotated, it basically is kind of rotating. It looks like it's perceived as rotating because it's bending through the FOV, right? And we can't change the FOV at this point because that would change the size of everything else in the world, and trying to counterscale that and to get that to feel right from level to level is a fool's errand at this point. So, but here's what we got. So I started thinking about it a little bit more again. In this level, we in level 2 and all the levels from here, we have a much more intimate setting. We definitely can have distance and have things in the far distance. But I think that the scenes that I'm thinking about, we're much closer to like the street or structures, buildings, right? And one thing that isn't really working for me is when we take a look at, let's just take a quick look at this. Maybe I can actually just go to the YouTubes. Go to the YouTubins. Hello, YouTubes. YouTubing. 1 second. Should have had this queued up. All right. Let me just take a look. There we go. Perfect. All right. So one of the things that bugs me quite a bit with our level 1 setup is that it's always harder to see this stuff when everything's blowing up everywhere. It's so great. Is that in the skybox parallax with the city, we rotate some of the buildings, right? But we distinctly have billboards, right? Like that's the thing. And when we take a look at those, let me see, I can probably see it's better here. It's also, I think if I'm looking here, it's totally fine with the bigger structures. That's why we rotated these structures here. These things feel good, like when they're, it gives us the sense of it's fake, but of perspective, right? It's like fake 3D, right? It's like diametric perspective to some degree, right? And also, I don't mind it so much in the background of the buildings when we're taking a look here, right? Let's take a look. If we're just looking at like the and these are pretty okay, but I think like once we get to the layer, man, maybe I'll just, you know what? I'm just being silly. Level 1. And I think the big thing for me, and we're still like, we're trying to figure out how we're going to construct these new settings, or the settings as in, the environmental settings, right? And I mean, if I just take a look here, let's see, can I probably just drop the enemies? Let's try that. Come on, you can do it, engine. All right, yeah. Yeah, so I think that when the buildings rotate, for the most part, totally works, right? We had this kind of flat layer here, and you see it especially in this layer, the city layer, right? And it's especially as it's sort of parallaxing, and we're looking at like kind of how things come together. This is good for what we did, and I think that I like it. Totally fine, right? We have a couple other aspects that we added to the like the city cloud layer and whatnot, right? There's a couple things that I'm still working on parallaxing wise. I slowed things down a little bit just to make things feel a little less crawly in the foreground area. But I think that I think really like what I'm trying to figure out now is, if we go back to level 2, is we've been exploring this fake 3D side by taking the sprites and rotating them, right? And aside from the text scroll, like the rotation you can see here on the ground, right? As these things kind of come through, we could probably lean into that a little bit, maybe make it our style. There's not a lot we can do to detach. We don't have multiple cameras. We can't force isometric perspective. There's a lot that we have limitations on the engine side. We could have handled this differently. And frankly, we didn't know what we knew. Had we done tests early on with more of this kind of fake 3D-ness, perhaps we would have been able to then adjust the camera FOV and a few other aspects, right? I wanted it to be closer and be a little bit more, compared to our first game, I want to turn off everything that was sprite scaling, so we don't need it for our art, of course. So anyways, it is what it is, right? So now we're going to figure out what we got here. But I want to show you this. So I took these guys, right, just as a fake thing. I'm kind of imagining, what does it feel like to have these sprites rotated in order to create a little bit more of that fake 3D as it goes by the camera, right? So let me show you what this looks like here. And it's not perfect, but and I don't know if it's I don't know if it's better. I don't even know if it's good. It certainly takes up more space, and you can see here I did like different heights, and I'm like, well, what's the rooftops of these things look like, and are we doing ourselves every time we keep everything very front on from the camera in terms of not having it rotated or interesting angles to really kind of make it feel like it's fake 3D. What am I trying to say? Like, what are we giving up for that, right? And this really comes down to how we want to style this next chunk of the city. So I got some interesting results with this, and what I wound up doing here is I took this guy here, I pulled him to be in front of the side pieces, and I took these side pieces and I kind of like I shoved them over the top. So if we take a quick look, you can see them here. They're overlapping, but they're behind. Let's see here. So yeah, so they're technically underneath it, but there's enough overlap to where the pieces don't show gaps, right? So if I took this, for instance, and I did this, I said, oh, hey, let's construct it like this, right? Something like that. Even if I came down here and I removed these edges by creating just a little bit more polygon to polygon. Come on, you got this. There we go. Geez, man, come on, do it. All right. There we go. So even if I align these to be like to have almost no major overlap, you can already see here, like even as I just parallax the camera around, we get holes, right? So, and this is kind of what it looks like. And again, this is us sort of exploring, right? I don't really have all the answers here, but one thing is for sure, these gaps suck. So, and maybe this isn't the solution. Maybe at some point we should just go to 3D, but that's a whole other side since we don't have good 3D chops right now. So, okay. With that being said, right, I'm not sure, like we could construct towers or buildings kind of in this perspective. We can take like the top piece, as you can see, I kind of have it here. Maybe the top piece needs to rotate more. So, like we need to think about what that looks like. And then I just came back to DeathSmiles, right? And I was taking a look at DeathSmiles, and like this is the old school. Like this is how you truly had 2D and you faked 3D, right? And I think you can see it very much. Like this gives you this very nice, aesthetically pleasing, visual, right? So it's framed, it's in the environment, and it feels really good. So I think like DeathSmiles is definitely a lot of the inspiration for I think how I want to construct the intimacy, the closeness of the environment. And some of that is, I think, trying to get away from billboards where we can. Some of that is like kind of hand shading, of course. We And then some of it is just how we're going to take various sprites, the fake sprites for that natural parallax, which we already started doing in level 1 in the space section, and kind of pulling it into being able to do something similar to this. So, and then we can reserve the skybox for maybe just little candy bits, like because we can't turn skyboxes on and off, but we can open holes in our sort of background textures to allow those candy bits, like could be speed lines or anything. It could be cloud layers, right? But we're going down deeper into the city, so we don't really have much of that. So I don't know. Just I thought I would nerd out with you a little bit on this. I think we still need to think about that and what that means. I think even looking at these pillars, like obviously they're 2D, but there's something, it's all 2D, right? But I don't mind the way these look, but I think it's also because it's not fully flat on the same way. I mean, it's such a weird and interesting bit of artistry to sort of like, I think just explore. So, and I think I showed it a bit earlier. If we go back a little bit, like, now granted, Gothic castle, right? All that good stuff there. But I think that, like here you got these like cool sky bridges, and where enemies come in. And I feel like this is very close to the speed. Like we're not going to be going crazy fast through the environment. It's going to be much slower. Like, and we can have slight parallaxing, natural parallaxing with objects from the background. But it means I think we need to get a lot more meticulous, and we're going to do this this weekend when we sit down to, I think, sketch out a bit more of these scenes, right? When we think about this, but I really think that we have to come back, take a look at this game again for really that inspiration and figure out how to construct our environments similar to this. Because I just don't think that the taking sprites and rotating them towards the camera is really going to get us exactly what I was envisioning. Maybe there's still a case where we can use it as a technique, right? Like to give us sort of fake 3D buildings like it showed with those pillars. Maybe there's something cool in that. And that might be a technique we use in conjunction with this. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at thinking wise. So appreciate the rambles. Thanks for paying attention. And I'll get this video up for you soon.